What's going on, guys? Sharpshot here. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. So today's video, we're going to be looking at the top 6 most underrated killer perks in DBD. These are going to be killer perks that are slept on and kind of overlooked as being not as good as they actually are. And the 6 perks in this video are going to be underrated perks that are actually really good, not only as standalone perks, but also comboed well with other really popular killer perks and killer powers. And for each perk in this list, I'm first going to explain why that perk is overlooked and why I think it's underrated, and then I'm gonna go and break down the perk and why I think it's actually really good. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Coming in number 6, we have Dissolution. This is thought of being a very niche perk that doesn't really work well with smaller terror radius killers like Myers, and also doesn't work with a ton of other perks that are involved with palettes like Spirit Fury, which are fair arguments to why you wouldn't want to use this perk. But once you do get value out of this perk, it basically ends the chase right as the palette breaks. It's the equivalent of Spirit Fury in that sense, where it just immediately ends the chase once you get value. But in a sense, it's also better because you could potentially get value out of it every single chase, whereas with Spirit Fury, it has a charge up before you can actually get value out of it. Not to mention that it also saves you time by you not needing to actually go over and spend the time to break that palette yourself. It also works great with other anti-loot perks like Bamboozle to force the survivors to vault the palettes, and on killers who you have to pre-drop pallets against like Doctor and Clown. Coming in number 5, we have Eruption. This is an overlooked gen regression perk because people just read the description, assume that it's really confusing and really difficult to get value out of it, and then just go to the other plethora of gen regression perks like Pain Resonance or Jolt. But it's actually a lot easier to get value out of it than you would think. If you just mind your own business and play like you normally would and do some gen defense and kick gens whenever you see that they're progressed, and then you just down survivors like you normally would, you're just gonna naturally get Eruption value. And I also feel like people underestimate how long 25 seconds of not doing anything actually is. For a survivor just sitting there not being able to either heal, work on gens, unhook, and do nothing for almost 30 seconds, and it's gonna make people think twice about working on gens when they know that you're in a chase with somebody else. And what I think is the best part of this perk is that it has crazy high gen regression potential. It works especially well against uncoordinated survivors, and especially in solo queue, which is going to be the majority of your games. In solo queue, they're just working on a bunch of random different gens solo. There's going to be a bunch of different gens to actually kick and get value out of this perk from. Coming in number 4, we have Deadlock. People overlook this perk because they just see that it'll only get value 4 times in a trial, but 30 seconds is actually really big. That is potentially 120 seconds where the most progressed and most important generator is blocked in the trial, which gives you so much time to catch up and actually counter that gen. And you also get to see which gen actually gets blocked, which is really good information for you because you could just go over to that gen and you know that you're going to be able to find some survivors there that were working on it. And the best part about this perk is that it's one of the safest and most consistent value perks in DBD because you're always guaranteed good value. If you didn't get value out of it, it's okay because that means you didn't need it. And then if you do get a lot of value, that means that the perk did its job. And not to mention, it's also great to just stop the momentum survivors might be having of popping 2 gens at once, and it'll actually give you breathing room to contest that gen and not allow gens to pop left and right. Coming in number 3, we have Scorch Hook Monstrous Shrine. This perk's value isn't why it's underrated, it's simply for the fact that some people don't know that this perk got reworked into a Scorch Hook. They still remember Monstrous Shrine being that really bad basement perk and being one of the worst killer perks in the game, which is totally understandable, but this perk is completely different now, and it's actually really good because it's basically a support Scorch Hook, kind of like Hex Undying is a support perk to the other hexes, and it's really good if you combo it with another Scorch Hook perk like Pain Resonance because it basically gives you 1 extra hook location in the basement, which is a central location in most maps. So you'll have 5 locations instead of 4, which means that you're most likely always going to have a Scorch Hook to actually hook survivors on, which means you'll get value out of it every single down. Not to mention that if you kill survivors in the basement, that Scorch Hook won't get destroyed, so you won't have to worry about getting rid of Scorch Hooks if you just hook basement. And just a cherry on top, every survivor dies faster when they're on Scorch Hooks, and also makes survivors panic and have to work faster to save their survivors because they'll just have a lot less time to do so. Coming in at number 2 is Call of Brine. People overlook this perk because when you first do a quick read of the description, it seems as if you could only get this value on 1 gen at a time, but in reality you get value value out of Call of Brine on every single gen you kick, and it's basically like a pre-nerfed ruin regression on that generator, so it just deletes gen progress if people forget to go back on the gen. And it also gives you really good information, allows you to basically know when survivors are starting to work on it again, which will allow you to then be able to immediately recontest the gen and re-kick the gen to reapply Call of Brine all over again. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Darkness Revealed. This perk is underrated because I feel like nobody really talks about this perk, and people have this connotation that locker perks are just really map situational and are really niche perks only for Huntress and Trickster, but there are very few amount of maps that this perk will struggle on, mainly the Coldwind maps because they don't have many lockers around the map, but most other maps have so many lockers, and all the lockers are near really important objectives like gens, hooks, chests, exit gates. Lockers are around everything, so it's basically a BBQ on command when you open a locker, and you'll be able to see the aura of survivors whenever you want. And this perk is great on every killer, but I highly recommend running this perk if you're on Huntress, Trickster, or Dredge, because it'll basically be free value whenever you interact with lockers that you already needed to interact with. So yeah guys, that's been the 6 most underrated killer perks in DBD. Let me know in the comments any other underrated perk that you really like to use, and maybe I'll make a part 2 to this video. So yeah guys, that's been the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new. This has been Sharpshot, and I will see you guys in the next video.